They waited for one tail number, red 24. A $30 million MiG-29 lands, shuts down, and in that quiet window, a $10,000 swarm moves in from the Black Sea, silent, low, invisible to mid-tier radars. You clicked for proof that cheap drones can crack layered defenses. Today, we'll show how UJ25 Skylines used Earth curvature, civilian corridors, and mapped gaps to bypass Podlet K1, Bait 9M96E2S, and still hit both the fighter and the Ertis SQ radar. The result? A 37 to 50-mile low-altitude blackout near Symferpole. You'll see every step of the cat and mouse and the exact timing that made it work. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. You're told the northwest arc of Crimea is sealed. Layered sensors, overlapping missiles, no gaps. So why do low-cost drones keep slipping in and hitting real targets? Because airtight isn't airtight when the math of the Earth and the rhythm of operators start to matter. The defensive stack is textbook. A coastal Podlet K1 watches low altitudes. Panzer and Tor batteries sit behind it to swat anything that leaks through. Up the chain, 9M96 class interceptors link to the broader network and reach farther with active seekers and data links. On paper, a clean ladder. In practice, each rung depends on what it sees, when it sees it, and how fast the handoff happens. Small drones shouldn't beat modern seekers, but they do when the fight drops to a few dozen meters above the sea, when timing forces radar sectors to look away, and when geometry steals just enough signal-to-noise to make a false track look plausible. The Earth's curve clips the line of sight. Add ridgelines and buildings, and you get low-altitude shadows where horizon-limited radars lose track beyond modest range. A drone that hugs those shadows buys seconds. Seconds change outcomes. That edge comes from grind. Months of pattern work to chart sector rotations and duty cycles. Logs of when beams sweep which azimuths. Night after night of mapping civilian corridor noise, scheduled flights, coastal traffic, weather returns, so slow movers can hide inside normal clutter. You don't jam. You don't spoof. You let the environment lie for you. The trigger was simple and rich. A returning MiG-29, tail red 24. On rollout, taxi, and turn down, it moves slow, follows a known path, and pulls eyes inward. That creates a narrow window when batteries look local and crews juggle checklists. Predictable is vulnerable. For UJ25 Skylines took that window. They came radio silent over the Black Sea, low RCS, and traced civilian air routes to merge with background returns. Two factors kept them safe. They stayed under the main lobes, and they arrived when clutter was highest. That's how a cheap airframe buys distance. The risk sat with the interceptors. 9M96E2S are tuned for nimble targets, but guidance needs clean updates and stable geometry. Force recomputes at the edge of the envelope and kinematics start to hurt the missile more than the drone. So the shield acts like a mesh. Ukraine didn't punch it. They measured the mesh and shaped the path. Now watch how the swarm splits, baits the missiles, and lands hits the second the base is most exposed. For cheap drones, $2 million interceptors on the rails. No jamming, no spoofing. How do they make the shots miss? By living at the radar horizon and making guidance solve the wrong math. The split happens clean. K1 and K2 bend north toward Kachcha, hugging a shallow notch in the coastline that keeps them tucked under the lower lobe. I1 and I2 angle inland toward the Ertis SQ node near Symferpole, sliding along a separate ridge line that screens them from the same sweep. Different paths. Same idea, stay beneath different slices of the sky. Podlet K1 finally bites. The returns look consistent, not birds, not sea spray. Batteries shift from search to missile track, letting the interceptor's radar and data link scrub clutter and lock a firing solution. Now it's lethal. Now timing rules. The bait starts subtle. K1 and K2 float a few meters higher, just enough to look appetizing to the crew watching thresholds. I1 and I2 hold a lateral offset and stagger timing by seconds, forcing the network to hand off tracks between sectors and nodes while clocks tick and buffers refill. You can feel the system strain. 29M96E2S leave the rails. Mid-course, they ride uplinked queues, chasing predicted points built from past returns and motion models. At terminal, the active seeker wants a clean glint and a steady angle off. But the horizon is a dirty place. Pads bend, updates lag, angles change at the last moment. K1 and K2 drop to C-skim, where a meter of height swings the horizon by kilometers and salt haze fattens the background. I1 and I2 cut hard laterally, not fast, but wide, pulling the interceptors into shallow turns that bleed energy and force a recompute inside thin airspace. The missiles chase ghosts made by their own math. Failure stacks. Seeker gain hunts as ground return rises and falls. Moist air scatters the signal. The Doppler gate fights waves and rotor wash from nowhere. Kinematics sag at low altitude, where drag punishes and the pull to correct comes late. The shot's never quite close. David versus Goliath, but with physics. Drag, masks, and latency become the sling. The drones live through the window. Both pairs see clear lanes. The sprint begins. K1 knifes toward the apron for a single, hot burn. K2 stays high enough to judge the kill or swing for fuel points. I1 and I2 align on the radar's rotation base and the cooled brains behind it. One cuts the moving spine. The other kills the mind. Why hit one fighter and one radar? Because response and awareness are the lungs of a base. Kill the interceptor on the apron and you steal the first scramble. Blind the node and you steal the eyes that cue the rest. You don't need to break every bone. You stop the breath. Terminal phase starts tight. K1 angles for catches apron. Time on target synced to Red 24's shutdown cycle. When ground crew and heat haze wrap the jet and attention funnels to checklists. I1 and I2 run a staggered line on the Ertis SQ node, one keyed to the rotation assembly, the other to the processing block stacked behind the pedestal. They don't race. They pace. Final sensors wake up. Panzer optics scan. Tor search beams sweep, trying to reacquire returns that don't stand still. Low-altitude movers at odd bearings slip between thresholds, where a few degrees of azimuth and the curve of the Earth starve the track of updates. Crews see flickers, not a fix. K1 commits at the apron. The package is thermite fused, set to burn hot, fast, and downward. Aluminum and magnesium catch, fuel lines wick the heat, and the burn eats through skin, wing root, and tank walls before foam or water can smother it. First minutes decide fires, and thermite cheats those minutes by making its own oxygen. You don't douse it. You contain it, if you can. K2 hangs back as Overwatch. If K1's kill holds, it flips to secondary targets, hard stands, hose runs, and fuel points that feed sortie cycles. One hit there slows pumps, delays towing, stretches apron clearances. Tempo dies by a dozen small cuts. I1 and I2 split their final run. Infrared sees what paint hides, the hot ring at the antenna base, the cool bricks around the processors. One warhead shears rotation, locking the array in a dead stare. The second slams the cooled housings, cooking boards and power conditioning. Rotation stops. Processing dies. The radar brain goes dark. Immediate effects ripple. Screens blank. Link nodes lose low-altitude feeds. Local power relays trip under heat and shock, and a gap opens around Symferpole that stretches for dozens of miles. Call start. Silence answers. Operational fallout is quick and clumsy. Katsha loses a ready interceptor. Alert cycles stretch. Units shuffle assets from Belbek and Saki to plug holes, and civil flights reroute while surveillance patterns lurch to adjust. A cheap fleet trades for a fighter and a node, then turns a region dark. This is proof by method, not luck. Cheap systems, rich intelligence, disciplined timing. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe. Low-cost drones turned a shield into a net. They found the knots, response, awareness, timing, and cut them. That's the method that wins when cash meets data and patience. What would you do if you're Russia? Harden radars with overlapping low-angle cover, push intercept lines seaward with picket sensors, or move aircraft deeper and accept longer scramble times? Comment your choice below. If you want to understand the tactical mindset that wins these battles, subscribe now. Next episode, We break down counter-drone adaptations that actually work under sea skimming, low RCS conditions, tactics that hold up under salt haze, terrain masks, and latency. Subscribe and join a community that seeks to understand the realities of modern conflict.